Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Glenn Waleska, moderator and host, Voice of the West and Independent Media Canada, talking to you today, September 4th, 2024, off-grid, somewhere in the Monashee. Today, we have a very special guest with us who has been through a bit of an ordeal, I think, over the course of the past few days, if not few weeks. And he probably thinks that he's on a roller coaster, and I would hope that he finally thinks that he's at the point where he can see the finish line or the end point. It's been quite an experience. This is Kevin Acton, who is the current mayor of Lumby, who is a director of the Regional District of North Okanagan, and he is also, as of yesterday, just about this time, maybe a little bit before, an independent candidate for the riding of Vernon-Lumby in British Columbia. And he is a former, very recent candidate for the BC United Party, and almost a candidate for the Conservative Party of British Columbia. So welcome, Kevin. I'm going to shut up and give you a chance to fill us in on a lot of things here in a couple of secs. But it's very important, I think, as we go through this discussion this afternoon, for people who are constituents, voters in the riding of Vernon-Lumby, to know why it is that you are sitting here today doing this interview. And I know in the last couple of days you've probably done dozens of them by now. So something happened. Yeah. So do you want to maybe fill us in a little bit on how this whole story unfolds?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Glenn, I have to tell you, thank you so much for having me here. And I really hope that people tune in and get a chance to listen to this and some explanation as to what's going on for me and why I've made the choices I've made over the past several days. And you're right. I would say this is probably the first time I've felt like I've had my feet on solid ground in quite a bit. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, as you say, lots of surprises, lots of waiting, anticipating, right, without answers. And, there's some long gaps in time where I was just really wondering what is going on in British Columbia politics. And so I'm very happy to be here to be able to explain it to you and to your listeners what my thinking and rationale is.
Well, the issue of what's happening in politics in British Columbia is not a whole lot different than what we see happening in politics all over the Western Hemisphere at this point in time. And the idea of political parties taking some of the postures and some of the positions they have on things is almost mind-blowing. Like the polarization of our society at this point in time is something that looks like it's almost undoable. Like how do we get back to common ground? And I guess this is one thing that particularly interests me, with you being a politician who is now committed, and by virtue of the fact that you're independent, you are committed specifically, exclusively, totally, and without hesitation to your constituents.
Correct.
Instead of to a political party that has an agenda.
Yeah. I can't tell you how sort of odd and freeing at the same time that feels. But I do get nailed with the question often, like, well, what kind of power are you going to have as an independent? And, what are you going to be able to do in Victoria? And the reality is, any politician that is running to sit in Victoria, whether it's taking a chance as being a minority government or a majority government or the opposition or maybe just a backbencher, we're all taking a risk when we put our name out there for our communities to judge us and to put us forward as their representative. And I think, honestly, Glenn, when I really think through it and I go back to past conversations, I've had so many people over the last years as a politician engage in conversations saying, I really wish there's no such thing as partisan politics. I really wish we could just have non-partisan politics. And although, that the chance of that actually happening is pretty tough. I mean, people form cliques and groups, but to be able to have no commitment to anybody but the people in your riding is such a sense of freedom that I can't even explain. And I've watched it, as being a mayor for 15 years. I've watched it in Victoria. I've watched Bill Bennett stand up to Campbell during his reign in Victoria, when his community was getting threatened with the cessation of the grizzly bear hunt. And for their community, it was a big deal. It was a loss of a lot of revenue for the people that lived and worked in that industry. And Bill, because he said something about it, because he made his opinion known that was contrary to the party, he basically ended up in the basement of Parliament. And so, as an independent, I don't have that fear. I can go out and I can listen to my constituents, and I can go to Victoria and tell them exactly how we feel. And if the cards fall right, we might have a lot of power to do something about it.